Thank you very much. Lovely to be here, by the way. Thank you very much for inviting me. So yes, I'm the Chief Executive of Housing Justice, and I see a few familiar faces, and indeed one of our trustees is here. I saw as I was looking along, Richard. I'll be talking about trustees later. But some of you won't know us, so I thought I'd just give a quick introduction to Housing Justice and then move on to talk about what partnership means for us. So at Housing Justice, our mission is to mobilise Christian action on homelessness and housing need through love, justice, advocacy and nurture. We thought long and hard about that mission statement, so we really mean these words: love, justice, advocacy and nurture. The thing that we're best known for is supporting night shelters. We've been supporting a network of night shelters, largely small charities that have grown up out of church initiatives, 160 odd of these charities, and we've been supporting them to set up and run night shelters and try to take the strain off of the governance of things for all of these small charities by providing model policies and procedures, sharing good practice and so on. Been a challenging and interesting year with COVID, because that's really challenged us in terms of how we safely provide emergency accommodation and the shared sleeping space issues of night shelters, but that's a whole other discussion for another place. So we're best known for night shelters. We also have a programme for hosting destitute migrants, where people will give up a room in their home, a spare room in their home, to take someone in who's navigating the appeal system, and whilst they're doing so cannot work and cannot access benefits. We have one project in London and another about to start in Wales, and we have a mix of clergy and lay hosts. We have a programme that we call Faith in Affordable Housing, and through that we work with churches to turn church land into affordable housing, to provide a new supply of affordable housing into the system. We have a project in pilot, which we call Citadel, helping people to find the fortress within, and that's a support programme for people coming out of emergency accommodation into sheltered accommodation. And it's a mix of paid staff supported by volunteers that really grounds that support into the community. And for us in Housing Justice, pretty much everything we do is in partnership. We're a second-tier organisation, so we work in partnership with those that we support, but we also work in partnership with many other organisations. So moving on, first of all, to talk about partnership with church for us. We are a Christian organisation, an overtly Christian organisation, and all of our trustees right now are active Christians, and our patrons, we have Cardinal Nicol and we have Rachel Lampard as our patrons. So we're very much a Christian organisation supporting Christians to take action to address homelessness and housing need. So volunteering is a really important part of us doing these things, making these things happen. And the volunteers come from within individual churches and church communities. The emergency accommodation in the forms of night shelter and other emergency accommodation that I spoke about, that's provided in church accommodation, usually in church halls or in churches themselves, sometimes in other buildings that churches and charities have acquired. And church land, as I was talking about, turning church land into affordable housing. You can see an example here in Newport of a church that the congregation had sort of dwindled. They weren't able to maintain the building. It had closed years before. It was sitting there in a derelict state, and it was demolished and turned into affordable housing, whole new housing stream for that area there. It was over 20 units on that site, I believe. We're having Bishop Gully come to talk later as the new Bishop of Housing, and she's briefed with delivering the Archbishop of Canterbury's housing initiative, the actions following on from the Archbishop's commission. And at Housing Justice, we're trying to support the work of that initiative by bringing some of our resources and our connections to play a part in delivering that. So that's another example of partnership with church. And finally, just to talk about Homeless Sunday, and there's quite a lot of thought and discussion about prayer today. We support Homeless Sunday. We provide resources to encourage church communities to really think about homelessness, what it means for them, what action they want to take. And that falls on the Sunday that's nearest to the 10th of October every year, because that is International Day of Homelessness. And we, like I said, we provide a lot of resources. Check out our website, 10th of October this year. But we really encourage churches to take that time to reflect on what their role is, what they can do in a practical and in a prayerful way. So that's partnership with church for us. Partnership with the third sector. Well, all of these little night shelter charities that have been set up, they're all part of the third sector too. So, you know, we're working with those night shelter charities, 160 odd, as I said earlier, and some groups that haven't quite constituted as charities yet. But we also work with, in a network of the large charities in the sector, in the homelessness sector, largely, I think, really, to be honest, in terms of addressing rough sleeping, because that's been such an immediate need, and social enterprises that address rough sleeping and issues associated with rough sleeping. So we're part of that network, and that really helps us to support all of you in what you're doing, that we can tap into that network. We're part of Migrants Network to support the work we do around migrants. We, at the moment, have one project. We're starting to have two. That could grow, but we're still a small player. And so it's important for us to network with all of the other players there and bring in that strength, we feel, so that we provide the best possible services. And we partner around immigration advice in particular. And it's one of those areas where we could have thought about running it ourselves, training people up, you know, registering. But why do that, we felt, if there are other established partners out there who we can get into proper partnerships with, who can deliver good immigration advice and support those that we work with. And that also crosses into those that we've worked with in the night shelter network who need immigration advice. We have a partnership in Wales, a new partnership for the work that we're going to do in Wales, all around people seeking sanctuary. The Welsh Government has a different approach to national government. And we've got what we believe is going to be a really powerful partnership in Wales to enable us to do even more to support migrants, hosting, but immigration advice, and creating new sources of accommodation, for settled accommodation for people. And like I said earlier, we partner with organisations around social enterprise as well. And I thought, while there were so many of you here, I'd name check this organisation Year Here. I don't know how many of you know them, but we found them a fantastic partner. They're all about bringing, it's a postgraduate, it's a qualification, a postgraduate training, and it's about introducing young talent into social enterprise and social entrepreneurship. And we've been able to really enhance some of the services that we've had through working with Year Here. For instance, something that we're able to bring in to the migrants that we work with in London through Year Here, one of the social enterprises. So well worth looking. They've got a good website, well worth looking them up when you're thinking about partnership. They're extremely interesting. So partnership with the third sector, really important for us. And partnership with funders. And I know sometimes when you think about funders, you don't always think that they're partners to start with. You know, they're the source of the money to help you do what you want to do. But we have found our funders to be tremendous partners with us and really enhance the work that we do and support the work that we do. Yes, by providing money, but in many other ways. So for us, we're supported by churches who give us individual donations. We're supported by individual church members and non-church members who set up standing orders and the like. We get funded by trusts, guilds and foundations. Some of you also will do, and we find them great partners. They often want to bring other things to the table. After all, in giving you money, they want you to succeed in what you're doing. So they want to support you in every which way they can so that you succeed in what you're doing. So they'll help with pro bono, they'll help with linking you in with other organisations and individuals, and quite often they pay for that work as well, if that's necessary. So we've found that the funders that we have been fantastic partners. Comic Relief are a new funder for us, for our project in Wales around migrants. And their approach to partnership is all a notch above in many ways. So all of our early meetings would have been all around how they can support us and all around how they can introduce us to other people that they fund who might be in overlapping areas where we can support each other. Corporate funders I've put on the list. It's not an area that we're involved in. It's more difficult for us in many ways because of our size and our national profile. But I put it out there certainly in terms of partnership for regionally based organisations, because I know they can be, if you get adopted by local businesses, they can be tremendous partners in so many ways. And for us, I'm putting down local and central government, for some of you as well, and I know we're going to be talking about partnership with local government later, but we have found local and central government to be funders and very strong partners for us. So to come on and to talk about government, we accept money from government and we seek money from government, central and local, as long as that doesn't in any way compromise our mission. As long as we're in that overlapping space where what they're interested in supporting is what we're doing and we want to do and we feel is our mission. And we've never had to compromise on mission, and our independence has been totally respected by all of these funders. As we respect their place, they respect our place. And so we've had money directly from central government, ministries, housing, communities and local government. And I can see that Simon is on this conference today. And they have been very strong partners for us. Welsh Government have come on board more recently in a smaller way, but growing. GLA have been tremendous partners for us in London, and also a number of individual local authorities for us, and I know for some of you. They've given us money, but they have also been tremendous partners for us. And I just wanted to spend a little bit of time exploring the partnership with, say, government and central government and some of these other partners and what it's done for us. And I've put down 3 headings. So I think these headings for us are influence, collaboration and finance. So in terms of influence, what I wanted to say is, if we've got a place around the table, and we're representing a lot of people on this call today, that's what we attempt to do. When we've got a place around the table with other big players, that gives us an opportunity to influence. So we've been able to influence by talking directly with funders who themselves have got influence. So obviously government funders, local authority funders, they have influence and they have power, but also the third sector organisations that we partner with, they have influence and they have their own power base. And so what we're able to do is to represent you and to try and use that influence for the benefit of the people that we're all serving. Some of the photographs on the slide here of some of the people that we're serving. And I think a really good example of that influence was, because we're being funded by MHCLG, we were able to go straight to them at the beginning of the pandemic and talk to them directly about what the issues were for those of us serving people in night shelters in the pandemic. And there were real risks because the transmission risks were enormous with all that shared breathing, sleeping space. And of course, the client group that we're supporting there have got quite vulnerable physical health. Anyone who's had any time sleeping rough will have more vulnerable, will have worse physical health than the general population, and specifically respiratory conditions. So of course that meant people were very vulnerable to catching COVID and dying from it, frankly. So being able to articulate the specific needs of night shelter guests and being heard around that, night shelter guests were prioritised for moving into the hotel accommodation as part of the Everyone In initiative. They were in before anyone else. The night shelters were decanted really, really quickly, and lives were saved from that. And that's something that I think everybody in the partnership, you know, feels very, very thankful for. And if we hadn't got those places around those tables, we wouldn't have been able to exert that influence. So for us, that's a really direct example of the influence. We're able to collaborate with people the more that we're working in partnership, and that's with funders and non-funders. That's with people, with the other organisations, third sector organisations. And another example that I would give of how that collaboration's worked is a collaboration with us and Homeless Link, and how we've been able to petition for funding directly from government to fund the people that we work with, the small charities that we work with, to enable them to do their bit to make a difference. Small charities that don't have professional fundraisers, that don't really have the expertise to apply for the funding that they need, that's their lifeblood. So last year we were able to get £2 million from central government, and Homeless Link were able to lever in another 1.3 million. So 3.3 million went into helping our network to really play their part during the pandemic. And central government have made 3 million available this year, 2 million for revenue and 1 million for capital. So that's really powerful collaboration, pulling together that money, making sure that you can all make a difference on the ground. And of course, you know, the power of partnership I've put finally is the money, because although, and us in particular, and a lot of you on this call will lever in huge amount of volunteer effort, you also do need some paid staff, and we have to pay their salaries, pay our way, pay our core costs. We can't do any of that without finance. So the partnerships that we form bring in that finance that enable us to do what we do. So from Housing Justice's point of view, as I said at the beginning of the slide, everything is about partnership for us. We feel that it's just, you know, completely in our DNA to work in partnership, and that's what enables us to support you. And I hope that what I've done during this presentation, by sort of giving you a window into our thinking about partnership, just helps you to explore a bit more today about what partnership means for you, what the valuable partners are for you, which partners you might go out and seek to work with, and what it means to you. So thank you very much.